Before we begin, please know that some episodes include language that may be sensitive for some people. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Birth Portal. My name is Connie. Today's episode is about a woman I'll call Tessa, who is pregnant with her third child. Her previous pregnancies were smooth and relatively easy. She had an epidural for her first birth and was able to push out and deliver that baby in 1 hour and sustained only a small tear. Her second labor and birth was short, and she didn't have an epidural. Rather, she soaked in the tub at the hospital for 2 hours and then walked to her hospital bed and delivered that baby within 10 minutes and didn't need any stitches. Tessa was hoping this baby would come as easily as her last child born 10 years ago. There are 3 factors that make it difficult to determine what this labor and birth would look like. First, this was a different father, so genetics can influence the size of the baby. And this dad was 6 feet 4 inches, and his birth weight was 10 pounds. Secondly, it's been 10 years since her last birth, so it can kind of be like the first time her body's giving birth. And thirdly, it's her third child, which we call the wild card, and just can't guesstimate. Unlike the second child, we often say that the labor and birth will be half the length of the first one. At 40 weeks and 3 days gestation, Tessa's water broke at 2 p.m. while she was out at the beach with her kids. Thankfully, she was sitting on a towel on the beach and just covered the evidence with sand and put a dry towel around her waist, and the family made their way home, as Tessa wasn't feeling any contractions yet. She paged right away to let me know that the fluid was clear. She was also GBS negative and there was no contractions, but the baby was moving nicely. So we discussed her options, and she wanted to see if she would go into labor spontaneously, and if not, we would meet at the hospital the following morning and induce her. We discussed the importance of not bathing, not to put anything in the vagina, no intercourse, change her pads regularly, and contact me if the fluid becomes green or yellow, as well to take her temperature to ensure she is not developing a fever. Tessa was going to try nipple stimulation to see if that might trigger some contractions. Tessa paged at 6:30 a.m. to say she was mildly contracting about every 20 minutes since 4 a.m. and that nipple stimulation didn't seem to do anything, but that her hands got tired quickly, so she didn't do much of that. I recommended she have a good breakfast and meet me at the hospital for 8 a.m. Unfortunately, Tess was still contracting irregularly, and the contractions felt mild, only lasting 30 seconds, and so we recommended starting an induction of labor, but not before doing a bedside ultrasound to confirm this baby was still head down, which it was. The induction of labor was started by 9 a.m., and after listening to the baby's heart using the electronic fetal monitor for 30 minutes, Tessa began walking the halls with her husband, Ten. And they would return to the room every 30 minutes so we could have a listen to the baby and ask about the contractions. Every 30 minutes, Tessa would report that the contractions were picking up in frequency, and we would turn the pump up and the oxytocin to strengthen the contractions. Within 2 hours, she was up to 10 on the pump and was contracting regularly, with gushes of clear fluid coming every time the baby would move. So it was time to continuously listen to the baby and monitor the contractions using the electronic fetal monitor. Tessa was planning to labor without an epidural, but found it too painful and requested an epidural at 6 centimeters dilation. As Tessa was getting the epidural, she kept saying, "The baby's really moving a lot," and she found it difficult to stay still for the epidural. The anesthetist kept saying, "You have to stay still, you can't keep moving." Tessa kept apologizing, but the baby was making movements that were painful. Finally, Tessa got the epidural in after 45 minutes, and we helped her lie down and tried to put the electronic fetal monitor back on to monitor the baby and contractions, but I had a hard time picking up the baby's heart continuously. So as I was palpating her abdomen to determine the baby's position, I felt a very hard ball on her upper left side. "What the heck, little one?" I said out loud, and Tessa and Ted shot me a look of concern. I think this baby has made a change of plans and decided he wanted to flip around and is in a breech position now. Tessa said, "Babies can't do that in labor." Well, stranger things have happened, but it is rare to have this happen in labor. I explained to Tessa and Ted I need to consult immediately with the obstetrician and that they would likely recommend a cesarean section, which is what happened. It took Tessa a few minutes to wrap her head around it, but she finally agreed, and she was quickly whisked down the hall to the OR. Ted sat beside Tessa, and I said to them, "The baby's head is born," and they looked at each other smiling, tears rolling down their cheeks. Then they heard him cry, a big, loud, lusty cry. And the doctor said to Ted, "Get your camera ready," as the anesthetist lowered the blue sheet that was raised at Tessa's chest. "Oh my God, he's huge," says Tessa. Within 5 minutes, this 9.5-pound baby boy is being cradled in Ted's arms, tears streaming down, and I assume the role of photographer. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Birth Portal.